poetry is woven into the very fabric of the town. You know, even on my street, in fact, there's one of these little sort of birdhouses with a little door that you open. You reach inside, and you know, there's Longfellow and Whitman in there, and there's a little bench beneath the poetry house there, and it says poetry above it. You know, I mean, and these things are everywhere. They're like fire hydrants, and just in Amherst, you know, this is what we do, and it's actually kind of cool that we have both Dickinson and Frost, because they're both nature poets in a way, but they're also very different. And so it's something we can squabble about. You know, for people who love squabbling, it's an enormous opportunity. I have a friend who summed up his feelings about Frost by quoting Frost's Frost's wife's words from her deathbed. Apparently, her last words were, "Keep that man away from me," and that's how best summarize his feelings about Frost. And by the same token, I have another friend who never tires of fiendishly reminding me that anything that Emily Dickinson ever wrote can be sung to the tune of The Yellow Rose of Texas. Just when I forget that, he says it again, and I'm sorry. So anyway, we should talk about poetry, and we have someone here who's going to help us do that. She lives in Amherst. Her mailbox is actually across the street in Pelham, but we're forgiving people. We can get over that. Please join me in welcoming Karen Schofield. So, Frost or Dickinson?
You start me with such a hard question.
Yes, it's all going to be easy after this.
Oh, good. Well, I mean, I would have to say for me that's Dickinson. I
would have guessed.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Dickinson
I'll have to ask you later about that.
Yeah.
But she was a poet who really transcended the poetics of her time, and some of the things that she was trying out in her writing is exactly, you know, the things that are happening now in poetry, and so that's very exciting to have that as a base for some of the things that go on today.
Okay, so she was like a frontier breaker, where Frost was kind of pulling up the rear in some ways.
Yeah, he was. He was coming along at that.
Yeah.
Okay, I would never have said that. But he was coming along at the end of a certain era of poetry.
Yeah, and he did it well too.
And he did it very well.
Yes,
and beautifully.
Yeah, so don't hate on Frost.
Nope.
I don't know why you're doing that.
Okay.
What can you tell us about how to kind of shift us into that poetry headspace? My guess, and I could be totally wrong about this, is that that your life and the way that you experience your life is going to be a lot richer than mine, simply because you're more attuned to things that I'm like, poetry, you know. Or,
well, I do think my life is richer than yours, but it's not because of poetry.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, I wish that were true. I do think poetry brings me great joy.
Yeah.
But there are, of course, many other things that bring me absolute and wonderful joy. I don't think I look at the butterfly any differently than you do. I just don't think I do. Do I spend more time thinking about the image of what I've just seen? Perhaps. But I'm not even sure that that's true.
Like occupationally, you know, like I'm a poet, I should be thinking about this, whatever, in a poety way now. Or?
Well, there's certainly. Gosh, I wish because that makes it sound really lovely and ethereal.
Yeah.
And it's really hard work.
Yeah, it is.
And it's hard and frustrating and a whole, you know, everything that any job can be.
Yeah.
And
it sounds miserable.
Yes, sometimes. But you know, anyone here has had sad moments in their work where it hasn't felt fulfilling, and you're like, why do I keep doing this? I think anyone, whether you write or not, has those types of moments.
Right. Okay. So I mean, you know, I've read some of your poetry, and I mean, it occurs to me that one of the things that poetry does for us is it's a way to kind of break the frame and kind of get you off script and seeing things in a somewhat different way.
Sure.
And it's not really until you do that you realize really how on script you've been, like yada yada. We're talking about the seasons before. That's something also that kind of breaks that frame and kind of snaps you awake. I just remember reading one of your poems. It was from the point of view of a mollusk. Can you remember that one?
Yes.
Okay. Like, so how often would you have an excuse to you
Was
know?
it from the point of view? Okay, keep going.
At some point, I mean, there was at least a line
Oh,
where,
you're right.
like,
I just thought of the line. God, you know my stuff better than I do.
what was? Do you remember the line?
I thought it was the voice of the mollusk speaking. Because there's someone who's holding them, this huge, I mean, this thing's giant.
Yeah.
And so this young guy is holding it up, and he says, I'm going to crack it open.
Yeah.
And I'm horrified.
Yeah.
And I should say the speaker.
Yeah.
But this is one of the things that really did mirror life. That you know, he's holding this thing aloft, and he's ready to just crash it down onto the rocks. This is in California. And I yelled no. And I yell it, and I'm so surprised that I'm able to yell over the sound of the surf, and yell it so that he can hear me, because I'm not standing right next to him.
Yeah.
And that's the line. At first, I thought it was the voice of the mollusk speaking. So how funny that you know that.
No, that's the best example, because I mean the takeaway there for me is that there's some places that you'd like to go or you need to go in life in order to do whatever you need to do, but you're not going to be able to get there unless you can kind of make these kind of weird jumps. And sometimes poetry is the only thing that, I mean, how else are you going to get inside the head of a mollusk? You know?
Isn't that wonderful? Isn't that one of the great things about poetry, other forms of writing, other types of art that really help that sort of that transcendence to make that leap?
Right. Okay. So we're particularly interested in what we can do to make this really concrete for someone who's not very clever like me. And I see that you have a book here for me.
Yeah.
I assume that's for me.
It is. Well, we had been talking earlier about bringing things that are perhaps a little more concrete, some examples of more concrete things in, and talking about that. So I brought in the book. This is Checked Out Okay by Corwin Erickson. It is a book of found poetry in which he took the police logs, which we all love. I don't know anyone who doesn't love the Amherst police log.
Yeah.
And he took logs from Amherst, Montague, and Greenfield, and turned them into this book. He edited, compiled, removed the names of people whose names should be removed, that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And turned it into this. And Checked Out Okay is a line that, for those of you who are very familiar with the police logs, because you read them every week, have heard over and over again that the police went and that something was all right.
Yeah.
When they
Subscribe, by the way, to your local newspaper.
Yeah. Well, if they get the Amherst Bulletin, like, it arrives in the mailbox.
Yeah, they sneak poetry in there. You don't even know it, but
It's true. It's
Okay.
true. Written by the dispatchers, no
Right.
doubt. So I marked a couple of things, and I'm actually wondering if you wouldn't mind reading it.
moi?
Yes.
Sure. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
See, there, even though that first poem that you pulled out of the box confounded you.
Yeah. Well, we'll
All
see if I
right.
can do better.
So I marked them with
I hope the print is bigger than the last one.
I think the first
Oh,
one's
okay.
over there.
7:49. Police received a complaint from the jail on Elm Street that there were two women outside the fence flashing their stuff. It was not specified what kind of stuff they flashed. Officer sent. Now, I can see the poetry in that. Yeah. I wish I could see it closer, you know. 12:33 p.m., police are investigating a report from a woman who went to the University Health Center after feeling ill. The woman said an acquaintance may have drugged her while she was eating porridge.
I mean, isn't it great that it was porridge? It wasn't oatmeal.
Yeah. Now,
Isn't
that sounds like an old
fantastic?
one. I mean, what's the date
It's
on that one,
porridge.
you know? That was from a very old, okay. Oh, okay, here's a somewhat longer one. A resident of Hedgerow Lane called police at 12:30 p.m. to report a 12 to 14-inch snake in his kitchen. He refused to touch it, but said he had it contained under a mixing bowl until the animal welfare officer could respond. The animal welfare officer reported finding a 4-inch long garter snake, which he picked up and put outside in the garden.
Wait, did that say it was a man who had reported it?
Oh, that's a great narrative. Okay, well, one more, last one. Police were called at 5:52 p.m. Police were called to the New Market Center for a truck which had a cooler on its bed and a sign attached to it that read "Dangerous." The cooler checked out okay. Okay, so
Look at that.
yeah. I see. It wasn't as painful as I thought it would be.
No, see?
But it also occurs to me that you just sort of coerced me into doing a poetry reading.
Yes, I did.
Okay, so it seems to me only fair that quid pro quo.
I'll read whatever you want.
No, I want one of yours. Do you have one?
As in?
As in from right out of your lobe, Athena-wise. Can you do it?
Yeah, I can do it.
Okay.
Right now, you know.
Hit me.
Okay. 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 This is called Speculoos Limit. And I wrote it after spending a day spackling and prepping a wall to paint in my house. And after doing that, I began to wonder, well, what would it be like? How would it change my worldview if I did this job all day, every day? So this is Speculoos Limit. All over the city, pockmarks in cement, imperfect surfaces, macadams, undulations, rounded edges where hard corners should reign, stop signs with bullet holes, loose screws at the playground, holes to be, beehives, doorways that never close, the space between bars at zoos and jails, the madness of chain link fences, certain yoga poses, windows rolled down, someone beautiful leaning out of the taxi, calling in Spanish or Catalan, clouds torn by the wind and patched again, above them faint craters of a daytime moon. The countries know better. Ragged shagbark, the emptiness formed by a squirrel's tail touching its back, holes in the snow, the indentation made before the seed drops in, the very thought of seed cavities, blue bottles lined on a windowsill, your windowsill, in the country, your face with a mouth, Victorian trim. In the yard, a girl's hands cupped around broken blue eggs, guarding only the speckled idea of the bird. Thank you.
In the morning, in the backyard, a chair to wonder how life got so small. Could this be all there is? Through the screen door, cups and saucers, chirping like birds, well, she'll be okay. I can get away for a while. 'Cause something's gnawing, it's always nagging. I gotta do something before it's too late.